her. Haman had no doubt it's Haman. So he said, let the crown of the king be put on his head. Let the horse, king's horse be brought in. Let him be put on the horse. Let the robe of the king, royal robe, be put on him. The scepter be given into his hand. Then let this man be taken all through the streets and announcing that, the man whom king honors will be like him. What is? Oh, what a desire he had. When king said that, do likewise to Mordecai, not a thing to be lessened. Man, he already died there. He already died there. That was the most humiliating scene in the world. I wish some painter will paint that scene. Looking down, gloomy, disappointed, and everything. And it take only a couple of days before he was hanged on the same scallop that he made for Mordecai. What a sad. But that's what man is doing here. He is creating his own, a gallop to hang. He is doing that. Independence from God means not freedom, slavery. Slavery. Yes. The American black people got freedom. Abraham Lincoln gave them freedom. Very good. But truly speaking, are they free? Those evils now they are doing and practicing in Harlem and in other places, they never did one of those sins when they were slaves. It's true their physical labor was and difficulty was there, but not one of these evils. You cannot walk through those streets for 5 minutes. You cannot. Everything will be gone and you will be gone. Your kidney will be sold, your heart will be sold, everything will be. They know. In minutes everything will be. One day one of our brothers, he was in New York, and a black man came and, extended his hand. Hi. So he gave the hand. Very good. Then he said $50. I said, what for? My shake hand goes $50. You better pay and go, otherwise he will get your wallet and everything. In another sense, is the freedom. What is freedom? What is freedom? Political freedom is not the only freedom. We need moral freedom, and even above that we need the spiritual freedom. So Martin Luther King has to fight for the freedom of the people, because political freedom really did not make them free. Make them free. I was working in States and I had a black man working with me, and there were other people. Man, we were having a discussion about freedom and all. Had Abraham Lincoln gave us freedom and all, and this man made a statement that we were totally free people in Africa, and these white people came, caught us and brought over here. I made a wrong statement. I said, but you will also realize that you are far better today than your relations in there. He immediately pulled a gun, just loaded gun. And shoot you if you open your mouth again. That's the freedom they are having. I couldn't say about what he will shoot. But I realize what the freedom has brought. This man drinks all at the work also. He's always drunk, and he has a loaded gun in his pocket, and he will shoot anybody because he's a free man. Yes. So when Adam inaugurated a lifestyle of rebellion, that lifestyle of rebellion against God's will and God's authority is continuing. The only difference is it was more respectable there than it is now. Adam did not pull out the gun against God or anything, Yes. So Satan did not tell that a forbidden desire is sin. Satan's fall was also originated in the same, So when he said you are a becoming being, so you are not at your final end. There are a long way for you to go. You will realize that if you will sin. So he sinned. It's a question, how did sin originate? It's asked by many people, I don't know how. Sin was definitely not a rational and natural act. No. It was unnatural and irrational. The origin of sin is somewhat of the characteristics of caprice. Sin is a kind of mystery of iniquity. The fall of man cannot be explained on natural grounds. In the physical world, an action or an event could be explained by cause and effect method. But the fact of sin cannot be explained like that. There was no prior sinful something to cause it. Adam had no sinful inclination to cause his sin. So, to say that Adam's self-determination is the only explanation is not satisfactory for what motivated Adam to determine against his own interest. That's the question. What made Adam to make a decision against his own interest? That's a question it's not perfectly answered, to be honest with. Because certain things we cannot answer. We have a certain limit. And yet, the only explanation put forth is that the sinful self-determination of Adam's will was both the cause of the first sin and the first sin itself. The first sin became a cause for all the sins afterwards. And that self-determination, was the first sin itself. The first sin was self-determination. He was not to determine himself. He was to submit to the determination of God. So the first determination itself is a sin. So if the first determination itself is a sin, the question what caused it is illogical. It is a question like the word God, who created God? Well, what is the definition of God? The uncreated being who exists everything. So who created the uncreated being? I say, I have a question. Then you tell me. Why a triangle cannot be a square? Because the definition of triangle is three-sided. So three-sided thing cannot be a four-sided thing. So the definition limits it, right? Yes. Then the definition of God also makes your question absurd. Because you are asking, where did the uncreated being come from? Who made the uncreated thing? Who made the first cause? No, God is the uncaused cause of all causes. You cannot ask where the first uncaused cause has come. That's an illogical question. So the explanation put forth for that question, where did sin come from, is say that the first, the first sin actually, was it was the cause, and the Adam's will to sin was the cause of it. So the sinful self-determination of Adam's will was both the cause of the first sin and the first sin itself. Sinful self-determination is in itself is a sin, and this sin led to the sin of disobedience. When a crime is happened, usually the police or whoever is inquiring it, their inquiry will not limit to the question, who stabbed this man? Even the why question beyond that, where did the first plan to make it? That's where it goes. So they said there was a meeting of 10 people in a city in the upper room on such and such date. When they thought about it, crime starts there. Crime starts there. So everybody involved in that is arrested. They are all charged with plotting for the murder. So the first sin itself was a sin. The first thought, when Adam thought about disobeying, that thought itself became a sin, because that's the origin, that's where it came. Adam and Eve apparently never thought about it until Satan came. Yes, they never. But when Satan came, Satan planted that thought in it. So this is, this applies to us also. That's why in Mark 7 and other places that out of the heart of man comes a list of sinful things. You are sitting in your room quietly, alone, nobody else, you are thinking about a sinful act. Whether it's a stealing, it's a robbery, it's a fight, it's adultery, or it's whatever it is, that you did not do it. You did not do it because you didn't have the courage to do it. That's why most of us don't. People who had the courage, they do it. At the bank, and there are 1,000 rupee notes, 1 lakh rupees, and there is 50 bundles on the table like that, and you are there to take 500 rupees. And sometimes the clerk won't be there, nobody there, and you can put your hand through and take it. Some take it, some don't take it. Those do not take it, they don't have the courage, because if I am caught, my name, my fame, my health, my family, everything will be gone. The other one did because he had the courage. But God doesn't compliment that courage, because it's a sinful courage. It's a courage to do a sin. But, if we say that we have not committed any sin, I say that in God's book we have committed many, many sins. That's why Jesus said, he who looks at a woman to lust, he has already committed adultery. So there are many people who have never committed a physical adultery. God will read in their list, you have committed 1,000 adultery. God, me? Yes, you. Why? You thought about the act and you got enjoyment out of it, right? Mental enjoyment. So that's adultery. Oh, yeah. Huh? Isn't that terrible? That's terrible. Yes. So when Adam thought about eating, that became the first cause of his sin. That thinking. A man was created with the capacity to think, but that capacity was not limited to evil thinking. That capacity was neutral. You can think this way or this way. If you think that way, it is God pleasing. If you think this way, it's a sin. And Adam thought this way. Yes.
This point that you touched probably earlier, then who sinned first, you or Adam?
Yes, that's a good question. Well, we cannot separate Adam and Eve at this time. They were one unit. They were one unit because the unique nature of creating the first man and the first woman. He named them Adam. So when Eve actually ate the fruit, her eyes were not opened. We read that he gave it to her husband who was with him, and he also ate, and their eyes were opened. If the statement can be taken in a logical sequence, then we'll say Eve's eating, then Adam's eating, and then the eyes were opened. Why waited until Adam's eating? I will say that because of the unique nature of Adam and Eve. They were the first parents of the whole humanity. People ask, what is the basic unit of our society? Is the individual or the family? I will say it's a family. Yes, I know what constitution and all say, that may be different, but the basically family, the family. So that may be the reason. When Adam ate, it was opened. So who sinned? There is another principle also. The inheritance of the sin is from the male. By one man's sin, everybody became sin. So in God's accounting the sin, I will say that Adam. But the moral aspect of the sin, I will say probably Eve first. The legal aspect, Adam. Jesus Christ rose again. To whom did he appear first? Mary Magdalene. But in 1 Corinthians 15, Paul gives the account of appearances. Which is the first? He rose again and he first appeared to Peter and then the 12. No reference to any woman there, because legally women were not accepted as witnesses in the old Roman system and the old Jewish system. Only a man could testify, the woman could not. Now the woman could be a judge. But so in God's viewpoint, that man, the sin nature, had transferred from father to the progeny, So one man's sin entered into the world, and all have sinned. That came. So that is a legal, or you may say that, yes, there's a theological, legal presentation of the fact. But behind there is a moral presentation. That's why we say when Eve sinned, sin entered into the world. But yet, her eyes were not opened, because there are two reasons I will say. One is the eating of the fruit by Eve was not a voluntary calculated move. It was a cheating. Because in 1 Corinthians, Paul says that Eve was, she was deceived. She was deceived. But Adam was not deceived. Adam's eating was a deliberate, voluntary, thought-through act. There is a difference when somebody does something out of a tricking or cheating. Still the act is wrong, but the culpability of act is not as equal as somebody who does it deliberately and knowingly. Yes.
Can you repeat that sentence?
Yeah. When somebody is doing a sin, or sinful act, as a result of a cheating, as opposed to another person who has done it willfully, thoughtfully, when it comes to the culpability, there's a difference. Both have sinned, but the first sin is the result of a cheating. The other sin is, the result of not cheating, not deceiving, nothing. It's a willful thing, so he wanted to do it, Eve understood when Satan said that you shall be like gods and all that. Poor grandma, our great grandma, what did she think? She didn't think about the freedom of the independence and all that, their theological thoughts. She thought that, man, we're going to be like God, almighty, all-powerful, all-present. Everybody will be worshipping us, and wherever we go, there is a glory, that the halo around and all that. That's what she thought. What Satan meant is not that. Satan meant is that you will be totally independent, free to do what you want. God will no more be the point of reference for your life. And Adam wanted that sort of a life. He wanted to be independent because he just wanted to live a life of faith. So the motivation behind eating by Eve and the motivation for eating by Adam are not the same. It's different. Therefore the culpability is different. Yes. So that's the difference. So for Adam, it was not an accident. For Eve, it was almost an accident.
They were not. They did not parent a child during their sinless state.
They have no child. Yeah.
Only after the fall.
Yes. I often thought about why Eve didn't conceive. Mm-hmm. Some people say that's because they never had a relationship. No, I think they had. Oh yes, God in His sovereign will has. That's one thing. The second explanation is, the sin occurred before the first ovulation took place. Eve was not created with ovulation, probably. So, the first sin occurred before ovulation, and unless ovulation is there, So, this happened before that. That's another, no other reason, because they were the most fertile, and therefore Eve, he was ready for conception, then she would die. But she was not ready for conception. The only explanation is this, that. Well, that's very interesting, isn't it? Did the ovum, how long the ovum lives? Ovum lives 72 hours and the sperm lives for 24 hours, I think, or the other way around.
Ovum lives for 48 hours maximum. Sperm lives for 5 days, after 5 days.
No. No, it doesn't do that. Well, your father is an anatomy professor, so you may be right, but in this case, I think. No, 5 days it does not. You have to, those who are taking the rhythm method, they have to abstain for 5 to 7 days. That's because of other reasons, precautions, I think 2 days and 3 days. I think that's what it is, 2 days and 3 days. Anyway, that's not, so, she didn't conceive because probably the sin took place very, very fast.
The design also might have changed the design because God cursing the woman also.
That only said that it will be increased. Your conception shall increase. In other sense, see, if man did not sin and man was to having children, then infinity children, right? So the earth is not going to grow. If the children are going to be multiplied infinitely, where they will be accommodated? So what I thought that was that maybe a child will be born in 100 years, the next child will be born. God said that no, conception and all that will be multiplied. Now, earlier our women, were not conceived when they were feeding the baby, breastfeeding the baby. Now nothing works out, there is nothing, the conception can take within 45 days, the first ovulation starts after a month. So people even before anything happens, she's already expecting. I say, well, how this happened? That's a miracle. Our grandmother was given a special blessing. Conception and childbirth shall be multiplied. So probably the early days it was not that big. That may also be a reason that, so it will come its own time. But anyway, very interesting. Some of these things you sit down and thinking, they're very, very interesting how it all worked. Yes. So, how sin began, we need to say that sin is self-caused. Sin cannot be an effect proper of a proper cause. Proper because an effect is different from its cause. Augustine said, let no one look for an efficient cause of the evil of will, for it is not efficient but deficient. Nobody should look for an efficient cause of the evil of will. Now, evil of will is a wrong decision. When your will is taking a wrong decision, let us not look for an efficient cause, it is a deficient cause. With the sin of Adam and Eve, all wills become deficient. They are no more able to make the decision that Adam was able to make before sin. We cannot make such a decision. Our decision will be lacking something. Yes. Well, you decided to marry, you want to get married for a long time, you're praying and you finally saw a girl and you like the girl. If somebody asks the question, why you decided to marry this girl, you will have some answers. And the other man will just bring one area of statement that will make all your decision deficient. She is beautiful, she is intelligent, she is very able, and all these things you said that. And the other man just said that, but she is a mental patient. Every year she is in the mental hospital 6 months. So, what will you say? Oh, That's the way it is. Well, then I need to think again. I mean, nothing wrong with mental patient. I mean, she's not something that she does, but the fact is there. So said, then in that case I will think. Thank you for mentioning it. You know, see that very efficient decision you thought become deficient decision by mentioning just one area. Or somebody will say that no, she's very able, very intelligent, and she's very beautiful, and she's very this and that and all. Well, somebody said there is only one problem I can foresee. She will be the husband in your home. What will you say? She will be, what did you say? She will be the I'll be the husband. Then you will have fight all your life. So you decided, then I don't want. I wanted to be the husband in my and see the situation, what I say, because there is no such person who is efficient in every area and no deficiency. The Chrysostom's joke, is said and repeated everywhere. One man came to Chrysostom and said that Tirumeni, that's a way of addressing these people, for my son, we need a girl. So there are plenty of girls in the Marthoma church, man, but it's a problem. But I want a girl from a good family. You mean the Marthoma church doesn't have good families? Oh, there are plenty. But she should be beautiful. Oh, yeah, definitely there are plenty of beautiful. Educated, we got plenty of girls even with PhDs. But good character. Then he said, if I could find there is a girl like that, you think I'll wear this saffron color? But that is it. You cannot find the perfect. Only Adam could find the perfect. This is the bone of my bone and the flesh of my flesh, which means that taken from the bone, but it's beyond that. We have complete compatibility. She is like me in every respect. In every respect. It's amazing, isn't it? Since then, I don't think nobody has found a wife like Eve. Some area, maybe some are better, no, but not in every area, all balanced. No. Yes. So we should not look for an efficient cause for evil of the will. It is not efficient but deficient. Since the evil will itself is not affecting of something but a defect. To seek an efficient cause for sin is looking to see darkness or hear silence. You want to hear silence or you wanted to see darkness? You cannot. That's the same way, looking for an efficient cause for Adam's first sin. You just cannot. But silence is there and darkness is there, but you cannot see it or hear it. The reality is there. Yes. The good inclination is the work of God. But the first evil inclination, which preceded all of man's evil acts, was rather a kind of falling away from the good work of God to its own work than any positive work, the will now not having God, but the will itself for its end. Until sin, the will had God as the end. But with the decision to sin, the end of the will is not God, the end of the will is self. That's the whole failure of humanity. People make decisions and they stick with their decisions until, some people, everybody knows the decision is bad except that person. Even if he understands, he will argue that no, because he doesn't want to admit the fact that I made a wrong decision. People are so Egoistic means, they want to say that my decision is the right decision. So, they will argue for it, but the whole world laugh at it. How can your decision will be the right decision? You know the story of the king had no clothes. A very smart scientist came, in textile technology, and told the king that we have found out a